Right. So I'm just lovely to be here. Mark's a good friend. Thank you so much for asking me on. Always happy to talk to people that want to get into the industry and happy to help out always. Just a little intro to me. I have been running my studio Arrogant Pixel since 2015, so that's 11 years now. But I also lecture on the Games Design and Animation course at the University of West London, former board member at Yuki, former business development person at Curve. And yeah, I've just been about for a really long time. I'm also attempting a PhD. It's going badly, so don't ask me about that. Um, I'm also associated with a couple of these orgs, and yeah, I just try to stay active and visible in the industry, which is basically how I have basically built up my professional profile. So I'm here to talk to you a little bit about how you can do that too. And just a little disclaimer is that I've not always been too great at networking. It's definitely a skill that can be learned. And it's almost like the way that I describe it is that I put on this personality when I go to these events, and it makes it easier when I'm almost pretending to be someone that is confident, that can go up to a group of people and just start a conversation, because I guess my natural default is to be a game developer like you and sit at home and make things. It's not a natural thing. Some people are really great at it, but I still struggle sometimes. So please don't think that this is something that you're just innately born with. It's something that you can definitely work at. It just takes a bit of practice. Yeah, just a quick intro to Arrogant Pixel. We've been making games for a long time. Personally, I've been making games since I was, or trying to make games since I was 14. Today, we're a small team of 8 developers based in London. Oh gosh, that's a little bit out of date there. Sorry. But let's talk about what we're actually here to talk about, which is why we network. Now, ask yourself now whether you're doing everything that you can to raise your profile, not just in games, but just um, develop the skills to talk to people and get results out of that. But why do we network is the biggest question. So it's more than just self promotion, in my opinion. The very best people really look um, for deep connections, but we network because we're looking for jobs. For me, I'm always on the hunt for talented people to bring into my company. The other reason that I network is, again, finding business for my company. I will go abroad, I will go to these events in order to speak to people that might be able to provide opportunities for Arrogant Pixel. Um, Networking in general, the more people you know, the more people know about you is probably the easiest way to put it. Is just the more you get your face and your name out there, the more people feel comfortable around you, and that will put you forward for things, especially if you're the first person that comes to mind because they've only just met you. It becomes a lot easier to just sit back and let opportunities come to you once you've done this enough and you've raised your profile enough. Um, I also network to facilitate. I try to uplift everyone around me. I have this strong belief that we should all rise together. You know, it's not about stepping on other people. It's that if I help this person over here, then not only does it make me feel warm and fuzzy, maybe one day when they're in a position that they could help me out, that they will remember that I helped them too. Networking is also really great for inspiration. I love people, and just spending time with them makes me inspired, especially if they're working on something really cool that I've never seen before. The other thing that you would want to do, this is slightly more in the background, but it's intelligence gathering. So I am probably really in the know about who is signing what projects, what publishers are good to talk to at the moment, what indie companies are really hot and they're developing something super cool. If you didn't know that, then you're just at a slight disadvantage, because then you're just kind of spraying and praying. Whereas I can definitely be a lot more focused now that I have all of this information. So, having said all of that, um, we're going in networking for a reason, but I think that the very best networkers, the very best business development people are invested in finding real relationships. So you're not just going around picking up people's business cards, just collecting them like Pokemon cards or anything like that, or collecting as many people as possible. That's not what it's about. It's about finding people that are relevant and interested and people that you would actually like to spend time with and maybe do business with. So finding people that are your crowd is the best investment. Even if they can't help you straight away, it's something that will help you in the future, even if it's just, you talking about references, for example. Is this company good to work at? That is worth having that connection. So how do you actually expand your network? Now, this is something that is slightly more straightforward in the games industry. In the UK, we've got a lot of events that you can attend. And recently, the Independent Game Developers Association have just opened up their London chapter, and there's going to be a few opening up and down the country. So I don't know where you guys are all based, but being able to sort of participate in those sorts of clubs and societies and things, it's a great way to expand your professional network. And I would actually attend, try and make it part of your, day-to-day business to actually attend these things. Now, professionally, I have to. Um, and when you're freelancing, I would say like 40 to 50% of your time should be chasing leads and going out and meeting people, because yes, you've got to spend time doing the client work, but that will always have an end date. So it's good to have things lined up. But also, other things that you can do to practice is just to volunteer in your community. There's plenty of games events out there that you can volunteer for, but also just participating in your local community as well. That will definitely help you develop the skills, just talking to people that you don't know. And remember, it's always just that awkward first meeting, right? Once you get past it, then you're an acquaintance, and it's something that you see them 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and you become comfortable. So these spaces that used to be big and scary before are now comfy little living rooms that you can hang around with your friends that you've made in those spaces. Um, just doing any sort of outdoor activities works as well. So like join a running club or anything like that. Just practice being around people. And it's the most powerful thing ever to be sharing the same space physically with a person. Now, I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but I've got a lot of online friends too, but they're just not as tangible as people that I meet, in person, even if I see them once or twice a year. It's hard to do business with someone that you don't know exists in real life, or haven't conceptualized them existing in real life. If they're just on your computer or just on your phone, then there's a lot more energy that needs to go into fostering those relationships. Whereas one face-to-face meet is extremely powerful. The other thing that you can do, of course, in the background to everything, is to use your social media. For the games industry, I would say that LinkedIn is probably your biggest one. It's something that you would use to connect with in person, but also for people to keep up to date with what you're doing, professionally. So try to post like once a week. What's that? There's 52 weeks in a year. There's 52 posts. If you get into the habit of doing that, then eventually you're going to grow a following. You'll gain respect and raise your profile in the industry, so that when people meet you for the first time, you look, you know, well established and accomplished, and that makes people instantly more comfortable hiring you. And as I said, social media is great for networking, but um, I would definitely say that spending time booking an event to go to, you can start off slow, like maybe once a quarter or something like that. But once you have an income coming in and you need to sustain that income, you will probably need to go to one at least a month. And you will see how important that is. And I'm sure Mark has a few words to say about that too once the slides are done. But here's a few things you should do to attend an event, especially if you're an artist, is to get some business cards printed. Some people are super old school. I tend to have business cards on me. These days, I'm going for a rebrand, so I've run out of all the ones that are relevant anyway. But once I've got new logos and um, new branding, then I will certainly be getting business cards printed. And then if you have a game or something that you are looking to get published, then having like a physical press kit or some fact sheets is sometimes useful. But just having a good website, good portfolio site is paramount. I wouldn't also just rock up to an event. Generally, I need to do a bit of planning. So for GDC example, in March, I'm already looking at people that are going to be there and trying to book meetings 3 months ahead. For Pocket Gamer in January, slightly less so, like because they're my crowd. I don't need to do that much planning, but certainly if you're going somewhere for the first time, I would look at the attendee list, ask a colleague to introduce you personally if there's someone that you've been wanting to meet, or ask Mark or me if there's anybody interesting that you'd like to speak to. Another thing that I would also do before you attend an event is to just read the news. Um, and I'll tell you for why. It's because you want to be informed of current events and have little topics of conversation that you can talk about that would be a bit of an icebreaker. And I'm a big fan of attending events on your own if you can. It's nice if you go with a mate, but I think you should plan to separate and then, meet up for lunch later or something like that. But it just makes you way more mobile. And if somebody invites you to a dinner or something, then it's much easier to squeeze one more person in than like three or four. So that's why I tend to be a lone wolf at events because leaving myself open to opportunity just makes it a little bit easier for me to get invited to some serendipitous opportunities. When you are going to an event as well, I would always be ready to stick around to attend, after parties, dinner, drinks, all of that stuff, because that's when the real relationships actually get built. It's all great, business during the day, very professional, but people do start to loosen up around a drink, around some food. And that is when you really get to form those deep bonds and real relationships. So networking is not just about, the 10 till 5 or whatever the actual event is about. It's also about going for breakfast, going for dinner, going for drinks afterwards. It's important. And what do you do if you don't drink? I don't drink at these events, but as long as you don't mind other people that do, generally it's okay. But we do have the unfortunate tendency in the UK to centre a lot of these industry events around drinking. So just be aware of that and always be safe. I would, if you're thinking about that kind of stuff, especially as a woman, you do want to just be careful, I think. And it becomes a lot easier once you have a crowd around you that, knows where you are at all times, that will look out for you. It's just that initial getting into the scene that is tricky. But just know that there are friendly faces like me and Mark around that will always be there to help you out if a situation gets a bit sketchy. But you have to think about that on a normal night out, I think. So don't be too worried about any of that. It's just be prepared for it to be an all day affair. That's all I would say. A lot of questions I get asked about portfolios is, do I get mine printed? That is totally up to you. It's nice to have a physical version for yourself. You've done a lot of hard work, I'm sure, at university or through study or even just personally. But I think most people would prefer digital portfolios just because it is that much more portable. And you can also put a QR code on your business card. So if you wanted something physical, then you can do it that way. Another thing as well is tidy up your social media presence. And again, it's not about scrubbing it clean. Just Google yourself, make sure there's not anything that you don't want new contacts or future employees to see. Um, Remember that they will follow you up if they are interested. So I would avoid I would put a real photo, for example, on your LinkedIn. As much as having illustrations and stuff is probably more appropriate for like Instagram or anything like that. For your professional profile on LinkedIn, I would invest in getting some nice headshots done. And I think that there are, I think Limit Break do portfolio photo, social media photos, but I can confirm that afterwards. I'm sure Mark will. But on LinkedIn, the most important thing is that you're engaging in professional discussions. So you can start creating your own industry content, but also participate in discussions as well. Like, comment, just make yourself visible. You should be doing this anyway because you're generating all of this cool stuff. So post some work in progress, post some that 3D model that you're really proud of. Um, it's all well and good you doing this in private, but if nobody sees this, then they're not going to hire you at the end of the day. So the biggest question, I think I'm sitting in a room of introverts. I would say that is probably true for every room I come into that is full of game developers and artists and stuff. How do we network when we absolutely hate it? um, I would say that it's an active, not a passive activity. So I don't think it's a good idea you going to an event and then expecting people to come up to you because that's just not going to happen. So you do need to be ready to introduce yourself and take that initiative. I wouldn't wait for someone to start the conversation. Um, Always put your hand out for a handshake and hi, my name is blah blah blah. And I think that small talk can feel disingenuous and awkward, but it is an easy way to start a conversation until you find something cool that you're talking about. And fortunately, we're all in the games industry. So I don't think it will take too long to find something interesting that you're both really, really interested in. But it does make people feel comfortable when you are happy to talk about anything and everything, really. So this is an acronym that one of my mentors from like, oh God, like 15 years ago told me once. And I do keep it in the back of my mind because it is a really easy way to get conversation started is to use the OAR acronym. So first of all, you would make an observation, just like literally choose something in the room or compliment their shoes or something. So, wow, there's a lot of people here this weekend at this event. Ask a question as well. Have you attended this conference before? And they might respond, oh no, this is my first time. Or they might say, this is my 10th year in a row. And very quickly you can gauge whether this person is extremely um, like a veteran and is extremely important, or perhaps at the start of their journey that you could help. You would also reveal something about yourself as well. So, this is my first time in London. Where would you recommend a good spot for lunch would be? Blah, blah, blah. All of that stuff. But this is a really easy technique to practice wherever you might be. So do it when you're standing in the queue at the supermarket. Do it at the gym. You might find yourself feeling a little bit crazy, but I do. I mean, I'm happy to chat to anybody now, and although I try to refrain from startling strangers on public transport and things like that, when you are in a space with a person and I start to feel awkward because we've not, it is awkward just standing in silence, I do try to start up a conversation, and it's always lovely connecting with humans. And yeah, it's a really good way to get to know your local community at the same time. So I do encourage you to try and practice it. Some networking don'ts, like I said, networking does not mean like going from person to person, trying to collect trying to collect them, but be a good listener. And if you don't care about the people that you meet, they will sense your insincerity. I'm sure that you've met somebody before that has maybe found out that you're a student or something, and then suddenly, they want to move on to talk to somebody else more important or something like that. But one thing that I will always stress is that people might forget what was actually said in the conversation, but they will remember how you made them feel. And you don't even need to say anything for you to make somebody feel like you're not important. And I think things like that can be very, discouraging to people. So when you are talking to someone, focus on that person. Don't just don't be constantly scanning the room looking for someone more important to talk to or anything like that. But I will tell you how to exit conversations, because sometimes people get nervous and they kind of cling on to you, especially if you're like the first person that has talked to them that day or something like that. So exiting the conversation. Oh, this is the most awkward thing ever. I hate it too. But I personally don't try to monopolize people that I meet. And what I mean by that is like be aware of your tendency to get comfortable in a conversation and not want to move. The last thing you should do at an event is to tie people up and prevent them from moving on and meeting other people because they shouldn't be doing the same to you. So when it's time to disengage from a conversation, do it gracefully. So say something like, "It was so nice to meet you. I'll let you have some time to speak to other people and I'll email you next week." And it's much better to have short, sweet, very pleasant conversation, respect their time, and then just follow up. And then you'll have time for a face to face, maybe an hour-long video call, in a week's time or something like that. But don't try to get business or close deals in like the 15 minutes the first time you meet someone. Um, so another thing that you could say is, "It's been such a pleasure meeting you. Will you excuse me? I see my roommate over there. I promised I'd catch up with her. Let's talk soon." So just a small excuse just to like excuse yourself, and they will be grateful that you did that too. And this is the biggest thing, and do not forget to follow up. So you've gone through all the hard work of breaking the ice with somebody, starting up a conversation, you've got their business card. Do not let that go to waste, and make sure you send that email or WhatsApp message. Set aside some time to follow up with everyone that you meet at an event. And if you take their business card, they are inviting you to contact them. So don't feel awkward about sending that first email. Just be like, "Hi, just following up from this event. Was super nice to meet you. Wondering if you had time next week for a coffee catch up or a virtual coffee or something like that." Okay, and the steps below kind of indicate an increase in commitment from your potential contacts. So don't go in looking for a publishing deal straight away. But things like, "Oh, I just would like to ask a question" is a good first step. And then once that relationship has developed, maybe some actual advice from like a mentorship perspective. And then you can maybe ask for real assistance, and then after that you can ask them to advocate for you, ask them to talk about your names in big conversations, and then alliance at the very end, something that you are actually partnering on and working together as equals. So just be alert to the possibility of things going a little bit further. You're likely to meet a lot of people that are not going to get past the early stages, but it's about volume at this stage, right? And then, I don't know how much time I've got, Mark. Do I have time to keep going? Just got a few more slides here.
You're good. Keep going. Keep going.
Okay, yeah. So again, right, so you've got their contacts, you've booked a meeting. So how do you prepare for that meeting? Never go into a meeting cold. Have some questions, some topics of conversations. Just have an agenda. The worst thing that you can do with a busy professional is to waste 15 minutes, 30 minutes of their time. So just know why you're having that call in the first place. So every meeting is about meeting customer needs. It's important to develop an understanding of what that person needs in the meeting. And a good tip is obviously try to get hold of names and job titles before the meeting so you can direct questions to the most appropriate person. But let's just say it's just a one-to-one meeting. You will know their name, you will know their job title. They want to know why they're there, and you also want to know why you're there as well. When preparing for an important meeting, always do your research. And if you're, pitching to a publisher, you're asking them to risk thousands, if not millions, on your game, and to also sign you ahead of anything else that they're considering. So, the risk is significant on someone if you're asking for investment. So it's up to you to do it's up to you to do the homework. And of course, first impressions matter. A lot of people will tell me, it's the games industry. You could just rock up wearing whatever you want. I agree with that to a certain extent, but personally, I know that first impressions always matter. So I place a lot of importance in my wardrobe, and I invest in pieces that I think um, not will impress people, but would um, make me be seen as a serious professional, because I'm asking for, a few £100,000 or £1 million. And I can't I personally wouldn't rock up in just jeans and t-shirt when I'm doing that. Some people do, and that's great. But for me, it's kind of like an armor. It's me knowing that I have prepared as much as I can. But saying that, if you are overdressed, it will make you look desperate or nervous. I'm not saying like rock up to Pocket Gamer um in like a three-piece suit or anything like that. But you do need to do that for like a gala or, the BAFTA awards or something like that. So make sure that it's something that you're calm, collected, and confident in, something that's clean, something that, people are not going to feel weird about you being in the space about. But I do think that first impressions matter. So make sure that you are well groomed and ready to meet people is basically what I'm saying. And then gathering background information, sales statistics from industry trade magazines would be a first port of call when you are preparing for that meeting. And knowledge, like I said, intelligence gathering. This is what all of that networking will have built up to. And the other thing that I would say is when you are having a meeting with someone, I make it a point to never leave empty handed. And there should be like best case scenario, acceptable outcome, and then further opportunities or getting them to introduce you to somebody else if all of this fails. So never leave the meeting without having gained something, even if it's just information or a new contact that you can pursue. So yeah, that's it. That's it. That's it for my slides. But just in a nutshell, we are talking about networking that is more sophisticated than mere self promotion. And then as a creator, networking should be an active part of your everyday. And I would say look at networking as a long game. Concentrate on finding real relationships and real friendships in the industry because we like working with friends and we like to help friends. So be a good friend is basically what I'm saying. And don't forget to have fun and actually enjoy the process. This is something that you cannot really do unless you actually take some enjoyment out of it at some point. Um, so even if it feels unnatural, even if it feels forced or awkward, know that everybody feels that way. And sometimes it is easier to put on this mask until you don't need to put it on anymore and it becomes really natural. But yeah, that's it. I'm happy to take any questions.